Hello, welcome. Please take your favorite seat. You can sit right here in the front row. Don't be bashful. Don't be shy. Take a front row seat. Funny. Everybody gets a front row seat. And if you're shy or bashful, turn the camera off and you got it all. Get your popcorn out. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Jenny Beal, for saying yes last week. I appreciate you, as we all do.
You're very welcome.
So yesterday I finished. We have five more sessions. This is one of the five, and Jenny's our host today, our co-host. Jenny Sheehan is next week. Then Susan Telford, then Rosalind Rourke, and then Amy Habel will finish us off on January 10th, and then we're going in about 2 weeks after that, we're going to India. And I was just telling Jenny Beal that the cave where Jesus went, I mean, this is supposed to be where he went when he was 14 years old, from 14 till he was, for about 18 months, he lived in a cave just outside of Rishikesh. And then he went up in the Himalayas to a monastery where he was known as Isa. And I'm hoping to get some footage of that cave area, some drone footage and some footage of that. And we'll be filming some of the sadhus and swamis in that area for Awakening Mind Films. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be super. And then we're going to go down to Bangalore, and then from there down to Tiruvannamalai and Arunachala. And I don't know how much filming we'll get to do down there because it's the 10-day intensive down in the southern part. So people are paying for that trip, and I don't know how much we're going to be able to get a camera out. But Leif said he can use his time lapse camera and set it up, and people won't even know it. So we'll just get them to put their signature on not mine being filmed, and maybe they'll be in Awakening Mind Films. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to finish up our discourses with this guy. And I'm grateful to have Jenny as our co-host today, and all of you that said yes for the rest of the year. This has been our longest book study so far. And Jenny's influence has called me to name our next book, which is The Gospel of Thomas, and interpreted by Cameron, what's his name? McCall?
Cameron McCall, yes.
Yeah, Cameron McCall. And I'll send a link out. It's an Amazon link out, and we'll start that book study in the beginning of March. So there's plenty of time to get a copy of the book, and it'll be in fact, it'll be a much easier read, and something that we many of us are familiar with the Gospels, but probably not the Gospel of Thomas, because this is the gospel that really is more in line with the non-dual teaching, because Catholicism kind of changed it for everyone.
Mm.
And so here we go. We're on Discourse 421. What are states?
Yeah, so states refer to states of mind, and in Advaita Vedanta, there are considered to be just three states: deep sleep, dreaming, and waking. Sometimes people call Turiya the fourth state, but that's not right. It's not a state of mind. So in deep sleep, there are no objects and no subjects. So that's very straightforward. And in dreaming and waking, there are objects and a subject that experiences them. And we normally consider objects experienced in the dream state to be unreal, and objects experienced in the waking state to be real. So Atmananda is saying that you only know that a dream is a dream when you're remembering it in the waking state. And that a dream is when the objects in the dream are found to be non-existent. And then he goes on from there to say that since in the waking state, the objects that appear in memory, so a past event, are non-existent. Therefore, memories are just like dreams and unreal.
Right. So this would be unreal. This would be our waking state dream right now, right?
Well, right now is real because now is real. Now
Well,
is a
I'm
real experience.
uh,
But our memory of your description of your journey to India is unreal.
okay. Good, good. So that's unreal because it's memory, but
Yeah.
and really the distinction is that only now is real. That's just a distinction of that we are always living in the present.
Yes. There is only now.
Always and only.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the distinction is it's not giving us it's not trying to steer us to think that that event never happened. It's giving us a distinction of what is present what's now is is our true nature, is our true experience.
Yes. So if, for example, you dream about having a cup of cappuccino, then that object's obviously an unreal object. But equally, if you remember having a cup of cappuccino yesterday, that's also unreal and equally a dream.
Right, right. So what, I had this conversation. It's still funny that and it must have been because I was reviewing these discourses. I was having a conversation with Lisa this morning, and she has dreams, vivid dreams, almost every night.
Mm,
And she said it felt and seemed just like this experience right now.
mm.
And as I'm reading these ideas, I'm wondering what's the value of a dream? What's the real value of dreaming? What would you say?
Well, there's different ways of looking at it. From the point of view of mind, then the neuroscientists have looked into value of dreams, and psychologists, and a lot of them say, well, it's about really sorting out our understanding of what's been happening or what might happen, or generally a kind of cleaning up exercise. So that's their view of it, which I think has some functional value. From the point of from a spiritual point of view, it provides a very useful analogy, really, because we we know that when we dream, it's just as though we are there at the time. It seems real, and we feel it's real at the time. And we don't know what's going to happen next in the dream. We don't know whether the car is going to crash, or we don't know what's going to happen. But the strange thing is that our self consciousness is inventing that dream, is creating that dream. And in the same way, consciousness is creating the dream of our waking lives, the story of our waking lives, and all that is happening there.
Hmm. Yeah. And it can give some indication, and has off. I mean, there are visions that ancient text has, where dreams became manifest. And sometimes people, and like a lot of inventions have happened from men and women dreaming about something and going, "Oh my God, I know what that dream was about." Boom, something something is invented that helps humanity.
Yes, and often the reason for that is that it's as you go to sleep, then mind stops for a bit, and you're going into the equivalent of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and that's where ideas come from. So if you've had a problem in your mind, then an idea which could be the solution of that problem is quite likely to occur as you sleep.
Hmm.
And when I was studying maths, I used to keep pencil and paper by my bed because if I went to sleep having not solved one of the problems I was meant to solve that week, then sometimes the answer would occur, and I'd wake up with the answer in the middle of the night, and I just write it down.
Nice.
Often I'd write down a complete load of nonsense, which obviously made sense at the time, but then didn't make sense afterwards. But sometimes it was okay.
Yeah, right. I think the dreams could also be helpful, especially if you had a fearful dream or something that worried you or something that you were concerned about, and you allow presence to just sit with that, and just like anything else, just bring it in, allow it to be exactly as it is, feel the feeling. That could be a healing mechanism.
Yes, I don't know about that because I've never had any negative dreams or any nightmares or anything scary or bad happening in dreams since I understood my true nature. That just stopped. It stopped completely.
Oh,
So I never have anything like that
right.
anymore. Mm.
Oh, well, a healed mind. There it is. Cool.
Mm.
Well, he says that in the last sentence here, he says, a state of experience is styled a dream when its corresponding objects are found to be non-existent, as you said. And he says, in that sense, every past experience is a dream, and you have only one experience in the present, the wakeful. And that would be right, just as you said, that would be right now. That would be
Yes,
this
yeah,
present moment.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And his argument continues into the next discourse. And he explains that if the dreaming mind and the dreaming sense organs disappear, then the dream itself must disappear. And that's what happens when we wake up in the morning. And in order to remember a dream, you need to forget the waking world. And in a sense, you're going back into the dream world to relive the experience of the dream. So he says if the objects of perception, the organs of perception were unreal, the perception also must be unreal. Therefore, when the dream sense organs and the dream body disappear, the dream mind also disappears, then the dream perceptions do not have a container to hold on to. And even to think of a dream, you must cast away all that is connected with the waking state and become a dream subject for the time being. And he then concludes by saying, drawing a lesson from that, by saying that ignorance or avidya, in the form of the belief that Prakriti, which is the material world, is real and has an independent existence, it brings with it the weapon needed to destroy that belief, and that weapon being a higher reasoning.
Okay. Okay. Well, that really helped to sort of bring clarity to that last sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading that last sentence going, carries on its head the weapon with which to kill Prakriti itself. I'm going, what is it? You summed it up very easily. Thank you, Jenny. Cool. As you wake up from the dream state, you must wake up from the waking dream also.
Yes.
Right. So to go back and try to figure out dreams, that's not helpful.
No, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes people like to explore their dreams, that sort of Jungian process,
Yeah.
looking at dreams. But I think on this path, it's not really relevant.
It maybe it's being something's being figured out through that some insight could come as you know that can be helpful, but trying to investigate it is another matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the secret of enjoyment?
Yeah.
Tell
So
me, Jenny, what's the secret of enjoyment? You seem to
enjoyments.
enjoy yourself a lot, you
Enjoyments
and Richard.
just
Tell us what the secret is.
yes. There there isn't a secret, really. There is just enjoyment, and it's our natural state is a state of enjoyment. And I think that is really what he's saying. Because he's explaining how the enjoyment of anything, and he gives an example of music, causes the sense of separation to disappear, so that you're not really enjoying the thing or the music. You're enjoying the natural harmony, the peace, and the happiness of the self. So, in enjoyment, the sense of being a separate entity just disappears. But then afterwards, you imagine that it was the object that made you happy.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
music has a way of making us pretty happy or move to that happy place, right? Start, you know,
Yeah.
doing the move on music and it moves you to that place of your true nature.
Yes, yes. Because you're always in your true nature whenever you're not feeling yourself to be something separate.
So it initiates the thing that is always present.
Yes, yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Why is it you think we need the initiator or the inertia? Why is that? Because
I don't think we
we've
do we really? I think once we understand this, once we understand what he's saying in this discourse, then we realize that happiness is there, enjoyment is there all the time in the background.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So then we don't need music, but there's it doesn't mean to say that music isn't fun and enjoyable
yeah,
to listen to.
yeah. I go in my shop sometimes and I'm working on tractors or some kind of project and I'll crank it up. You couldn't talk if you came into that space. It's so loud. And I'm just like, Yeah,
But you don't need the music, Bill. You just need the tractors.
that's true. Right. I do enjoy the tractors, especially, it's so
Yeah.
funny. Often I'll see the tractor parts that need to be put together. I'll go, oh my God, what have I gotten into? And I have no idea what I'm doing. Leave it alone, come back an hour later, I start to get some ideas and it sort of drops in.
Mm.
It's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
but you're right. I don't need and I don't actually need the tractors. I'm pretty happy all the time. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
All right. So we're on if we turn the page uh to 210. Oh, no, no, no. Oh yeah, what is the secret of enjoyment? He's talking about to say that you enjoyed anything, for example, music, is wrong. Okay, so that's what we just talked about. But you did,
Mm.
and then he said, at first you forgot your personal identity and were absorbed in the harmony expressed in the music, but you did not stop there. Through the expressed harmony, you were carried on to the unexpressed inner harmony of the self and experienced your own self there. So that's what happens. It's sort of just you kick into that somehow it that removes the veil and you go deeper. You can get lost in yourself, is what he's
Yes.
saying.
Yes. Perfect. But then he says you wantonly superimpose the bliss experienced upon the music outside. So the mistake is not in enjoying the expressed harmony, but only in superimposing the happiness upon some external object, here, music.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So to be present in that experience would be the would possibly be the uh, the transition of being there always. It could actually help you to realize that you're always that.
Yes, well, you know, the first thing I was told when I started on the direct path was um, just at every moment to do what I most wanted to do in that moment. And that is the direct path because it's enjoyment. It's a path of enjoyment. So that's how we establish ourselves in our true nature to always do what we most want to do in this moment now, or allow the body and the mind to do it. Need to satisfy both body and mind.
Hmm.
What do they really want in this moment?
Right. Living in the flow. Just right.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
just really just living in the flow, living in now presence.
yes. But it
What
doesn't need to be passive either. It can be very active.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that seems to come online. It seems
Mm.
to be all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, everything's not always easy, but it seems like it always is.
Yes.
Maybe it's more physical. Sometimes it's more physical and rigorous, or but it seems like it's for me. Life seems to be either more simple, or I'm not as affected by bad news or not things not going the way I want it as I used to. It's just okay, okay. You learn to say, oh, okay,
Yes, yeah.
right?
Mm.
It's interesting. It's not that you don't care. It's just that something changes where everything is okay.
Yes, and you just allow the body and the mind to respond to whatever the situation is. So if something is hard physical work, well, it's the body that's doing the hard physical work, not you. You are completely still.
Right. That's not so hard. I'm not even doing it. That guy over there named Bill is doing all that. That's
Yeah.
funny. People might come lock you up. That one, that one's a little bit crazy over there. Funny.
Mm.
424, how do the yogin and the sage react with regard to pleasure and pain?
Mm. When he's talking about the yogin here, he's talking about the yoga practitioners in India. So it's much more than just hatha yoga. It's
Yeah.
there's all sorts of yogas where students develop very special powers to control their mind to such an extent that they don't feel pain. And there have actually been scientific studies with fMRI scans which show that they're able to change the nature of the activity in different parts of the brain when pain is or should be happening. Uh, Jenny Sheehan probably knows more about this. I don't know a lot about it, but anyway, they've done some quite convincing work on that. But Atmananda is saying that the sage takes a completely different approach. He doesn't try to control the mind in any kind of way. Um, he says that the sage views pleasure or pain in quite a different manner. He lets the body or mind enjoy or suffer as it comes, only seeing that it is the body or mind alone that enjoys or suffers, and that he, the knower of them all, is not involved in them in the least.
Hmm. Yeah. It's there's no interference. There's no
Yeah,
interference and there's no running after chasing. There's just that almost a neutral witness experience. And
yeah,
you can see this, and this is why the sages like Yogananda and his mentor and those well-known sages of that Rishikesh, India area. This is why I think Jesus was a trained yogi because he came back and got nailed to the cross. You had to have some stuff.
yeah,
You had to have mastery to undergo that experience.
yes. And that's not this path uh, at all.
The direct path, but it is the
Yeah.
path of the yogi, though, isn't it?
It's a path of the yogi. I think there's another discourse in which he explains that the yogin gets stuck through acquiring all of these powers.
Yeah, the abilities. Yeah, I saw that. He
Yeah,
mentions that a little bit in this one, in this
yeah,
series.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Well, he's the one that needed it, though. That guy, good on him for the training that he got before he got nailed to the cross. It says in that last paragraph, but the one who takes to the jnana, or that would be the sage, right?
yes,
Path leaves both the body and the mind to themselves and chooses to retreat into his own real nature of peace within.
yes. He
Yeah.
regards his body and mind as as instruments, and not himself. They're instruments for my use. Body is like a vehicle for my use, a car or a tractor, maybe.
Yeah.
They're not me.
Right. Yes. And there was a mention here from Jenny. Jean Klein's clown taking a bow for the ballerina. The secret of enjoyment, don't define yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Holger says, to each moment, what you think and feel to do, love and do what you will.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is only for yourself. This isn't to um, affect other people because other people, you wouldn't want to hurt someone and
No,
and
no.
not care. Yeah. And
But if you really feel that everyone is myself, then automatically what you most want to do would not involve hurting other people or animals,
yeah, yeah,
because you feel they are myself.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Even bugs, I have a now I try to catch them and get them out of my space if I can.
Yeah.
Lynn said, didn't others get nailed to the crosses too? Oh, yeah, lots.
Mm.
A lot, hundreds of thousands of people got nailed. But mastery is the thing that made the difference so that, um, you know, to be able to speak while they're nailing you to the cross, forgive them for the know not what they do. That took a little more than just that took some real training, I think.
Mm. So Andrew asks the question: when you are sick, do you leave the body alone? No, not really, because you are the manager of the body and the mind, and so as manager of the body and the mind, you need to try and sort it out in some way. So just like you're the manager of your car, and if that gets sick, you take it to the garage and get the engineer to repair it, and take your body to a doctor and see what he can do for it. So it's treating it in that way as an instrument, but as an instrument which you manage.
Yeah, that was good. That's a good example. And you're also, as you're listening, you're given insight in uh, that's not reactionary in how to tell someone what to do
Yeah.
with the vehicle.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. It says, who is really doing a deed?
Yes, yes. This is lovely, isn't it? It's so straightforward, because he's really saying that the concepts of doer, doing, and deed are just artifacts created by the mind. It's just a separation um, that the mind has created in order to talk about it. So in the doer, there is only doing, and no who, a doer, nor deed. And in the doer, there's only doer and no doing or deed. And in the deed, there's only deed and no doer or doing. Therefore, the question doesn't arise. So that's,
Yep,
I think that's very straightforward.
yep, it is. It's often that in our individual experiences, if we're attuned to being present, we don't need to talk about what's going on.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah.
it's more helpful often just not to say anything and more natural. just
Just allow the
nothing going on
mind
over
to,
there. What?
yeah, allow the mind to say what it wants to say. There's a natural spontaneity when we're really abiding as ourself. It's just natural spontaneity.
Yeah, yeah. What is liberation?
Yes, this is interesting. He's saying that it's the body, senses, and mind that seem to bind you to limit you, but the background of awareness is always there, and we unknowingly go back to it after every activity. So that's really the same as the gaps between thoughts that we've talked about um, on many occasions. I think it's the natural nirvikalpa samadhi, the natural falling back into pure consciousness, which happens for everyone. It's just that they don't necessarily notice it.
Hmm.
So he says we just have to recognize it's ever present, even during activity, and that's that's holy laziness. That's what I was talking about in the bonus session. So
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Holy laziness. I
yeah,
like that term.
so,
It's yeah, he does really point to that though. It's
yeah,
and he says similar to that, you only need to acknowledge it. You only need to recognize it. And then and as it is recognized, that's moving one's attention to the true nature
yes,
instead of
yes.
ignoring.
You just go back to it every time knowingly rather than unknowingly. So when there are these gaps, then instead of feeling that you disappear, then that's when pure consciousness comes into its own. It's just there. It's there always.
Yeah. It takes a little while to once it's understood, and it's a gradual, natural moving that it moves itself
Yes.
to that experience.
Yeah.
Dr. Jude says, I have for a long time after major awakening to my true nature, had a cessation to having dreams while sleeping, just going into deep sleep, wondering why until a read about the distinctions in the direct way. Recently working with physical pain as a pointer, had an out of body experience while my body was tossing and turning and grasping for comfort in the lucid awareness of the body as unreal.
Yes. Sleep does change. Often even further on the path, it seems like deep sleep doesn't exist. That because you're so used to this gap between thoughts and perceptions, and the continuity of awareness, that it feels that deep sleep doesn't exist, and you think, oh, I didn't really sleep at all last night, but not sure whether I dreamed or not, and anyway, I feel perfectly rested. And that can seem quite strange at first. That's something that happens after, most people, I think, about a couple of years or so.
Hmm. So you're right where you ought to be.
Yeah,
Yeah, good.
yeah, yeah. But that might change. I think that will change for you. Um, Yeah.
What is Vikara Marga?
Vicharamarga, yes,
Oh, Vichara Marga.
Vicharamarga, and that's so that's the investigation into the nature of the self, and he says that establishing oneself as that is the only effort the disciple needs to make. So, in other words, the direct path is a path of understanding, and just applying your understanding to your life in the world is the only effort that's needed.
Truth and liberation.
Yes. So this is interesting because he's explaining that although all objects point to the truth of ourself and the world, it doesn't really help us until we're shown the ultimate truth by a teacher. And the reason is we get caught up and we get attracted by differences rather than seeing the oneness. And that's the common situation. And he says that hearing and seeing the truth from your teacher are the most important channels through which the truth's communicated. So it's hearing the teacher answer your questions and seeing how he behaves in his life in the world. Both of them important.
Hmm. Well, or even the kind of contact that happens here as we follow the teaching of a guru, of a teacher like Atmananda,
Well,
or
none of us have ever met him, and that's really the difference. He's really he's talking, and he talks more about that in the next one. He's really talking about a teacher that you've actually met and been in the presence of, because that's very much what his teaching is about. Even if you've only been in the presence of him once, um, then that's at least something.
hmm,
I mean, he says in the in the next one, hearing the truth direct from the lips of the guru is, of course, the first listening, and it's an extremely rare privilege to be in the presence of the guru, repeatedly listening to his words. But if you are not able to be constantly in his presence, then after that, thinking deeply over the truth that has been expounded to you, thinking about that over and over again, looking at his arguments, and touching the ultimate experience of the inner self, because that's really what happens sometimes if you've had a dialogue with a teacher. Then just going back to the words he spoke to you will often take you immediately back to that understanding, whatever understanding you had got from him.
mhm.
So he said, this is a form of listening adopted by the vast majority of disciples, of course, after once having heard the truth from the guru in person. So that is important in his view, and mine too.
Right.
I think Susan said the same about when she met Francis in London. Just an amazing difference. You know, she'd read a lot, she'd heard a lot from with Francis and lots of other people, but suddenly that meeting and what he said then, that just made all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had that experience with Muji. I had the experience with Rupert like that. I've had that with Rupert. I had a total, just a total change experience, and then in different uh, books that I've read, I've had like, oh my God, experiences that came from reading. So I don't really, I've had big experiences with directly with teachers, like I mentioned, Muji and Rupert, but I've also had big experiences from reading the teaching.
Mm. But it's understanding that's important, not experiences. You can have experiences from anyone, from a taxi driver, but it's the understanding that's important, and it's the way a teacher, a real teacher, will take you further in understanding, will see where the gaps in your understanding are, and take you further. And that's something that's very special and very, very different from experiences.
I've so my experience is that the understanding uh, is or was and still is a precursor to the experience that follows.
No, no, no. I don't think so. I think the understanding is the real knowledge.
Yes.
Is what it's what the path is about. Is about the path is not about understanding. There's millions of practices that you can do which will create experiences and create non-dual experiences. There's millions of drugs you can take which will produce non-dual experiences. There are ways of interfering with the brain which will produce non-dual experiences. That's not it. It's understanding, and that's something very different.
So how does one recognize the understanding? Is it not
Oh,
as
well,
experience?
um, no, understanding is is just a deep knowing. I cannot imagine myself to be a separate entity. I just can't imagine it. I know I used to think that way, and it's completely crazy. I just cannot imagine it now. And it's that kind of um it's that kind of certainty which pervades everything you do. And it's not about being calm and having happy experiences or anything like that. Those are side effects, and they do occur. They will occur, and lots of them will occur, and they'll occur most of the time, and you're happy most of the time. But those are side effects. It's the understanding that's important.
Yeah, right.
The way I think it was Jean Klein who described it as like a child initially believes in Santa Claus, and he believes that Santa Claus comes down the chimney and puts all the presents in the stocking uh, of the child's bed, and the child really believes this. And then at some point, when he gets a little bit older, he spots his dad coming in the room, and he pretends that he hasn't seen it, probably, but he knows it's his dad. And from then on, he cannot think in terms of Santa Claus being real. He might pretend to his dad that he's real because he wants to carry on getting the presents, but he doesn't really believe it at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I get the understanding. peace. I think it's, in fact, the understanding, you can't even pinpoint what happened. You just know something happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even not that something it is literally understanding the nature of what you are and the nature of the universe. It is quite literally that. It's understanding in the normal sense of the word, really. But
Yeah.
understanding always happens. Any kind of understanding always happens outside of mind.
Right.
Even when you're understanding Pythagoras's theorem when you're a kid, that happens outside of mind, the real understanding of it.
Right. Yeah. And when awakening occurs or when glimpses happen, and then awakening occurs, you know something happened. You just can't really, you just don't understand it.
Well,
Some,
yes, so sometimes, particularly partial glimpses, which are very, very common before you get a complete liberating glimpse. Then partial glimpses will say, "Oh yes, things are not how I really originally thought they were. There's something different. Something has happened. Something has changed about the way I see myself and the world, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And it's a kind of partial glimpse, and you've got this kind of inner certainty that it's important in some way, and that can pull you along the path. Um, it makes you want to explore more, to understand more, to look into things more.
yeah, right. Yeah, I like what Dave Adams said here because I've heard Rupert also say this many times that the hallmark of the non-dual understanding is the degree you feel peace on the inside and love in relationship to people and beauty in relationship to objects or to really the world, I think.
Yes, those are the side effects. Absolutely. They they are side effects which occur.
Yeah,
They're not the understanding itself, but they are the normal side effects.
yeah. So your kind of uh, cap on the understanding is that how would you describe the understanding?
The there's two aspects of understanding in a way. Um, there's the understanding that I am not this body or this mind. I'm not just this body or this mind. There's this feeling understanding. I am everything. I am all that is. That's however you express it. It never really describes that understanding.
Yeah,
And the other aspect of it. So that's I am that which is aware of all my experience. And the other aspect of it is that there is only one consciousness, there's only one substance, there's only one reality. Everything is completely and utterly intertwined, interconnected, and I am all of that. And the the idea of any kind of separation with anything, any object, any animal, any person, just just feels ridiculous.
mm, really good. Yeah, thank you for that. All right. Let's see. I guess we're on 430. How is mind related to the object?
Yes, yes. So he's really explaining what happens when we meditate. He says, when mind is taken away from any object, what remains over is neither the known nor the unknown. So that's what happens when we meditate. We allow our attention to sink into its source, leaving behind all the objects of experience. And that non-objective experience is consciousness without objects, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And mind has essentially disappeared. But when it reappears, it conceptualizes that experience of pure consciousness as an object. So it conceptualizes the ultimate reality as an object. So he says, what remains is neither the known nor the unknown. That can only be the ultimate reality. So that's a logical statement. Therefore, the mind makes the ultimate appear as the object. And yeah, mind comes back, and the ultimate reality is the object that it lands on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still remains. The
Yeah.
object still remains as the ultimate reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it becomes a problem if we allow mind to tell us that the ultimate reality is an object, which mind often does. People talk about, well, why does consciousness produce all this unhappiness? Why does consciousness produce all this pain? As soon as they say that, why does consciousness do X, Y, Z? Consciousness is an object, and that's a trap that it's very easy to fall into. We end up conceptualizing it as an object, and therefore, when we think, "Oh, I must go back to consciousness," I'm going back somewhere to an object, and that object ends up as a blank state, and that's not consciousness without objects. It has, as Francis says, it has no perfume.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how the mind goes back to take its place.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the mind can really only think in terms of duality, in terms of object, subject and object. It's just, it's like a machine. It's the way it works.
Yeah. And then also ultimate reality also is duality.
Ultimate reality isn't
Includes
duality.
duality.
Um, well, the ultimate reality, that's what Advaita says. The ultimate reality, there is only one reality. There is only one
Yeah.
ultimate reality, and that the non-dual teaching says that, firstly, the ultimate reality of mind is consciousness. So within consciousness, mind appears, mind is created. The ultimate reality of the universe, so that's being, and being and consciousness are one, and that's what non-duality tells us.
Yeah.
So the ultimate substance, both of mind and of objects and of the physical world, is the same.
Right. So that's
Only
a
one
statement
reality.
that there's really no duality.
There's no duality. That it's an understanding. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that you understand it is through seeing that, seeing interaction, seeing that the physical world and the mind interact when they have to interact for us to be able to function in the physical world. But the mind, if you just think of the brain, interacts to produce mind. There's the physical and the mental are interacting. So where you've got interacting, anything interacting, so the physical realm and the mental realm, the brain and the mind, then you know that there's a reality above both of those, and that's the ultimate reality, and that's one reality.
Yeah. And there seems to be an appearance of duality, and yet
Yes,
and yet it's not. It's not there.
exactly.
Right.
Mind creates the appearance of duality. Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
Oh, Sylvia has her
Sylvia's
hand
got
up.
her
Hi,
hand up.
Sylvia.
Yes. Hello, Sylvia.
Okay. Okay. So, hi. Um, so being aware of being aware, is that duality?
What do you mean by being aware of being aware?
Um, I'm aware of being here, or I'm aware, hmm, how can I say it? I'm aware of what is out there. I'm aware at this moment of everything. I, because I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, so you're aware of everything within your environment at
Right.
this moment. You're aware of your body in this moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awareness of objects, and yes, that's how we know. I mean, nobody could ever doubt. I am aware. We all know that we are aware. It's something.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something absolutely fundamental. You can't argue with it. You know.
Yeah.
We know we're aware. So that's awareness of objects. But there is another type of awareness which is without objects. And that's where we allow the mind just to disappear. We allow our attention to sink into its source in awareness. So all of the objects, so the objects in our environment, any sounds that there might be in our environment, um, our, our bodily sensations, we allow those all to exist on like on the surface of the ocean, and we
Okay.
just
Yeah.
sink way, way down to where there's absolutely nothing, no movement, no objects of any kind whatsoever. And it feels like going to sleep while you're still being awake. And for that reason, there's no time there. So it seems like it doesn't last. But you suddenly you realize it as almost as the gap, and you feel there's a gap, and it's that gap is pure awareness.
Mm.
Um,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
no
No,
no objects there at all.
no objects. Yeah. Okay.
And
Thanks.
it's something that you will be experiencing all the time. There's a beautiful text, I've mentioned it many times, the Tripura Rahasya, where he says, he calls the gaps between thoughts. He says that everyone whether they're following a spiritual path or not, they all experience gaps between thoughts and perceptions, but they don't notice them. And it's a little bit like what Atmananda was saying in one of the discourses tonight. So we don't notice them. But if we are able to just notice them and recognize their existence, then no kind of meditation which takes you to Nirvikapa Samadhi or any other kind of samadhi is necessary.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's a in my mind, and actually prior to a mind, there's a quiet, silent witness that is always present, and it doesn't have, there's no labels, there's no movement, there's just this what is.
Yes, that's still duality. It's it's the highest possible form of duality. And the important thing is first to recognize that there is only one witness, that witness that you think of as my witness is the same as the witness of all of us.
Yeah.
So there is only one witness, there's only one ultimate perceiver.
Yeah.
But after a while, you find that separation into witness and witnessed disappears. So the whole concept of the witness completely collapses. It takes a while. It can take well, certainly a couple of years or so, and sometimes that does need help from a teacher.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that I would put a my on it. I would just say that there's an is there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But even if there's a universal witness there, there is still witness and witnessed, and that's still a very subtle, very high level of duality. It's taught in quite a lot of teachings as a kind of stepping stone. I think Rupert uses it. Quite a lot of teachers use it as a stepping stone. It's Greg Good uses it. It's very convenient one, but it is important not to get stuck there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, stuckness is okay. As no attachment to
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I quite appreciate the experience that Bill, the bodysuit, has, and the experience of presence that's available. And if this is as high as it goes, I'm good being right here too.
It's not so difficult. It's again, it's more a matter of understanding than, well, it's only a matter of understanding, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I there's great appreciation for the the teaching, the unfolding. I'm so happy that I'm so happy that Jesus was available and that they were wrong about him and it got way better. So I'm very happy that that what I sought after nearly 35 years ago is way better than I ever imagined. and it's available to everyone. So that gives me, I mean, I have tremendous gratitude and joy over that
Yes. And it's
understanding.
so easy compared with what you thought it would be.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes. And
that's that's what's so
you don't have to
important.
pay
Yeah.
penance. You don't have to like bow down. You don't
No.
have to remember verses and all the other kind of stuff. And it's not behavioral. It's not, conditioned on things, doing things.
No.
It's just so simple and easy and that everyone has access to it without exclusion.
Yes. It's just enjoyment and holy laziness.
Yeah. Holy laziness. I love that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've ended our discourses for the day, and unless there's any more hands to go up, we can just end right there. Yeah, hold your duality is not a problem. Yes, right on.
Um,
Good to see you all. Good to see you, Rick. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week. Jenny Sheehan will be our co-host next week, and maybe she'll tell us what happens when you put people to sleep. What's going on there with the mind? Okay. Thank you, everyone.